What's going on, baseball fans? How you doing? Let's start off with our first story, and we got an update on the top free agent on the market, Aaron Judge. The Yankees have updated their offer. A couple of weeks ago, they had made a new offer to Aaron Judge. Those numbers weren't really confirmed anywhere, but it is believed as of right now, according to Jeff Passan of ESPN, that the most recent offer is around 8 years and $300 million, just under $40 million per season. That is a heck of a contract. If you go take a look here at the top contracts or the top AAVs in the game, Scherzer, Garrett Cole, pitchers are leading the way. Mike Trout is the top position player on the market. That AAV, right around $38.5 million per year, would be the top AAV for a position player in Major League Baseball. So that is that's a lot of moolah, if you ask me. Now the question is, will the San Francisco Giants or the LA Dodgers, the other two teams presumed to be in the mix? Well, not presumed. We know that the Giants already met with Aaron Judge. I do think they're going to probably beat that. I think, according to the reports that we were hearing about a month ago, the San Francisco Giants were not going to stop when it came to Aaron Judge. I do think they really need him. I think they need to be motivated to get someone like that. They need a big bat in the middle of that lineup. I could absolutely see the San Francisco Giants topping that offer, maybe, I don't know, 7-8 years, maybe like 325, somewhere in that range. But according to Jeff Passan, this is not their final offer, and they could increase the numbers if the market goes that way. Now, the San Francisco Giants, let's say they offer, I don't know, 325, 340. Will that bump the Yankees out of it? It's going to come down to how much more will the Giants offer. And I think a team like the Giants, very motivated in that division with the Dodgers and the Padres making the playoffs this past year. I mean, the Giants a couple of years ago were very good. They need to do something with that lineup. They need a bat like him, and they need like a face of the franchise like him. I could absolutely see them doing it. We're just going to have to wait and see what ends up happening here. For our next story, it's looking like the Phillies are making Trea Turner their top priority. We have seen the reports that Trea Turner and the Phillies seem to be a match made in heaven. They've been connected for a while now. There have been reports, going back towards the end of the season that the Phillies were looking like the best fit overall for Trea Turner, and also reports were suggesting that he wanted to go back to the East Coast. Trea Turner obviously fits the Phillies extremely well, but according to John Morosi, they are making him their top priority. And, honestly, it makes a lot of sense. If we go take a look here at the Phillies, they've had a tough time here with shortstop over the last few years. They signed Didi Gregorius. That ended up not really working out. You had Bryson Stott at short this past year. I don't think he was bad overall, but they definitely need an upgrade when it comes to the bat. Bryson Stott, he was pretty solid defensively, but you could move him over to second base, and Trea Turner would fit like a glove. Honestly, when you're adding an all-around player like a Trea Turner, who brings you contact, a little bit of power, brings you speed, solid defense overall. And the Phillies, who were 2 wins away from a World Series championship, they would be so much better with a guy like Trea Turner. But it is presumed that they are going to land one of the top shortstops out there, whether if it's Trea Turner, Carlos Correa, Xander Bogaerts, or Dansby Swanson. Hey, we've seen this connection now for a little bit with Trea Turner. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he ends up going there. Now, the question is, will the Phillies, how far will they go when it comes to the numbers? It depends on what Trea Turner's looking for here. Could it be possible that the Phillies maybe turn elsewhere? I would imagine someone like Dansby Swanson or Xander Bogaerts are going to be probably a bit cheaper than Trea Turner, so we'll just have to see how the negotiations end up going. But obviously, he would be a great fit for the Phillies. They've been connected for a while, so I would not be surprised to see the Phillies land Trea Turner here. Speaking of shortstops, let's talk about one of my favorites, a beloved icon in Boston, Xander Bogaerts. Man, oh man, it is not looking good for the Red Sox at this point. This was as of 11:40 a.m. The Padres and the Diamondbacks are among the teams interested in Xander Bogaerts. But Peter Gammons pointed out something very interesting here, saying while one doubts Bogaerts would switch positions, in the past 3 days, front office folks from 3 teams claim they've been told he has severed Boston ties and won't be going back. Now, there was something from Scott Boras. He basically flat out denied it. And of course, Scott Boras is going to deny that, because when you're knocking a team out of it, that's getting rid of your own leverage. So of course Scott Boras is going to come out here and be the agent that he is, one of the best agents out there, going to say, what are you talking about? Of course Boston's still in it. Because if he goes out here and says Boston's out of it, well, he's just losing leverage at that point. So not surprised to see him come out of it. But listen, as a Red Sox fan, I've been a Red Sox fan for over 25 years. I know how this ownership group operates. I've been saying here for quite a while, I see a lot of the John Lester situation. Even I believe it was Buster Olney that came out today and said something, oh, this is very reminiscent of, John Lester after the 2014 season. I've been saying this now for months. It's the same exact thing. They offered him an extension, was not very good. And, same thing happened with John Lester years ago. They offered him an extension, 4 years, $70 million. It was a crap offer. You get to the offseason, they tried getting him back. They made a late charge for him, but in the end, he went to the Chicago Cubs. And here we go again. Xander Bogaerts, once again, they made an offer in the season. It wasn't good enough. They're trying to, make a bit of a push for him here now. Doesn't seem like it's working out. I've been saying here from the start, I will not be surprised at all if Xander Bogaerts ends up going elsewhere. Sure, would I like to have him back? Absolutely, I would. But I know how the front office here in Boston operates. It all starts with ownership, and they've done this before. And it's not even just John Lester. This has happened many times. So, again, Bogaerts, I think he's going to end up going elsewhere. That's just my own personal opinion. And the Padres and the Diamondbacks are jumping in on this. I love that the Diamondbacks are trying to get involved here. We also had something here from Marino Pepen. The Red Sox have not broken relations with Xander Bogaerts. We were just talking about Scott Boras, but they are not close due to the years of the contract. And that's what I was saying too. I think what the Red Sox want to do, I think they want to go 4-5 years tops. I would imagine the Red Sox want to do like 4 years with some kind of an option. Xander Bogaerts is on the market. He's looking for probably 7-8 years. I mean, why not? He wants a contract for the rest of his career. That's what I think. And he's saying here the Padres have the most fluid communication with their agent, Scott Boras. The Padres have quite a few players that are Scott Boras clients, the main one being Juan Soto. But they got a few other ones as well. So they have a relationship with Scott Boras, no doubt about that. So the Padres are a really interesting team here. If we take a look here at the San Diego Padres. Now, you're probably thinking, well, you had Ha-Sung Kim last year. You got Fernando Tatis Jr. coming back eventually. But I think Fernando Tatis Jr., I don't think he's a very good shortstop. I think your best bet, have him play out in the outfield. You can have him DH other days. Sure, go play some shortstop some days. But I don't think he's a very good full-time shortstop. Obviously, the bat is amazing. You want to keep that bat in there. But what I could see the Padres doing, you could have Bogaerts play short, Kim could play second, and Cronenworth, while he is a little shorter than the average first baseman, right around 6 feet tall, you can have him just play first. So that would be a perfect situation for Xander Bogaerts. And then Fernando Tatis Jr., you could have him just go play out in left field. Hey, this team would be amazing. If you got Bogaerts in there, I think that would be flat out fantastic for them. Now, the Arizona Diamondbacks are an interesting team, and I'll be honest with you, I hope they could land someone like him. I don't think they're going to be able to, just considering how good the Padres are. They are just much closer to competing. So I would imagine Bogaerts would be more fond of going to a team like the Padres, but I would love it if he went to the Diamondbacks, because I think they have a lot of good talent on this team. I think they're obviously a young team, but I think they could take the next step in the next year or two, and having him play short, that'd be great for this team. A veteran presence like him, who's still very good and going to make your lineup that much better. I think it'd be fantastic for the Diamondbacks, but in the end, I don't know. They would have to pay a lot. They would have to overpay a lot for him, I think, to get him to go there, but it would be fantastic. Now, one thing I also want to mention here, Buster Olney, I think he's just doing this for clicks, honestly. Typical, ESPN, Buster Olney. He's saying that maybe Xander Bogaerts could become the #1 target for the Yankees. This is just clearly clickbait at this point. This is how ESPN operates. They're not legitimate anymore, unless, besides Jeff Passan. They're just not a very good company when it comes to this anymore. So, I would disregard this. He was saying if the Yankees don't get Aaron Judge, then they could go after Xander Bogaerts. But listen, you got Peraza there. You got Volpe coming up. I think the Yankees have made it clear that they're the two guys that they would like to focus on for the future. I don't know. Again, Buster Olney, just stop it with the clickbait. Obviously, it's not going to work out with the Yankees. It's clear as night and day he will not go to the Yankees. But the Xander Bogaerts sweepstakes, man, it is getting really interesting. As a Red Sox fan, I've moved on from Xander Bogaerts at this point. Have not thought he's going to be coming back. We'll just have to wait and see where he ends up. I don't think he will be back in Boston. If he goes to the Padres, that would be a huge move for them. Diamondbacks, I think that would be fantastic. We were just talking about the Phillies, with Trea Turner. I think there is that connection there with Dave Dombrowski. Depending on how the Trea Turner sweepstakes turn out, could they turn their attention to Bogaerts? Sure. I think the Cubs are another team that could get in on Bogaerts. I think the Cubs, they would like to have someone like Bogaerts because reports have shown from the Cubs camp that they don't want to go long term for a shortstop. We've seen that, with the Correa talks last year. Bogaerts, depending on how long he is looking for, I would imagine the Cubs would like to have someone like 5 to 6 years. If Bogaerts wants to do that, I could see the Cubs, getting in on it. So we'll have to wait and see how this develops. For our next story, the Mets are going to meet with Carlos Rodon. There was a report today from Joel Sherman that they had a Zoom meeting today, but it looks like they're going to have an in-person meeting at some point this week. For the Mets, someone like a Carlos Rodon would be absolutely fantastic for this rotation. What ends up happening with Jacob deGrom, I do think in the end he will go back to the Mets. But if you can also bring in Carlos Rodon and you can have a rotation of Scherzer, deGrom, and Rodon, that would be an amazing big three. Absolutely, I can see the Mets being motivated here to land someone like Carlos Rodon. Hey, simply put, they were a good team going into the postseason. You lost in the wild card round to the Padres. They're motivated. They're ready to win a championship now, and they got to make the moves like this. Someone like a Carlos Rodon, I think a good lefty like that in the rotation would be huge as well. Could you even, have Scherzer and you can have Rodon in between him and deGrom, breaking up the righty, have a lefty in the middle. I think a nice lefty in this rotation would be fantastic. I've been saying this, going back to last offseason. David Peterson, sure, he was pretty decent last year, but, Rodon was just on another level last year. If you can bring him in, that would make this rotation absolutely fantastic. The Astros just made a big signing with Jose Abreu, but it looks like they are going to keep going here. Willson Contreras and the Astros are going to meet. Now, the interesting story with Willson Contreras is that the Astros had a deal with the Cubs, going to be sending over Jose Urquidy to the Cubs, but that deal was shot down by ownership. Dusty Baker was saying, no, I kind of want to keep Urquidy at this point. Willson Contreras is probably not going to be a good fit at this time. But it's a different story now. Christian Vasquez, they ended up bringing him in. That ended up being the perfect combination at the catcher position, helped them win a World Series. But different time now. Willson Contreras, it's the offseason. His bat would be a welcome addition in this Astros lineup. You just added Jose Abreu. Can you imagine also adding Willson Contreras? Now, Martin Maldonado, obviously, this guy did a fantastic job with the pitchers last year. But listen, Willson Contreras, obviously, he is more known for the bat. But hey, he could always improve, and who better to work with than someone like a Martin Maldonado? Having him in the same room, obviously Willson Contreras would probably get the bulk of the playing time, but Maldonado, I think, would be a big presence there as the backup. And Wilson's bat, this Astros lineup would be off the charts if you brought in a Willson Contreras. My goodness. We'll just have to wait and see how this goes, but it's the Astros just winning a World Series and seeing them this active, trying to bring in these bats. You gotta love it as an Astros fan. For our next story, the Rays have been in contact with Jacob deGrom. Honestly, as a Red Sox fan, I hate it. But as a baseball fan, I absolutely love it. The Rays, you got to remember here with the Rays, last year, they had a lot of injuries last year. They were definitely hindered by that. And when they got to the postseason, they lost to the Guardians in the wild card round. But this Rays team is very good, and if you could add someone like Jacob deGrom to this rotation, oh my, this would be a heck of a rotation. You would have deGrom, McClanahan, and Tyler Glasnow, who's coming back. Don't forget about Drew Rasmussen. Jeffrey Springs were both good last year. This would be an insane rotation. I absolutely love it. Listen, with Tampa Bay, they're going to be moving to a new ballpark soon. They're trying to get into the city of Tampa. They're not going to Montreal anymore. Never thought that was going to happen anyway. If it doesn't happen with Tampa, you could always maybe go to Nashville, maybe Las Vegas. I don't know. But the Rays, they need to start getting some players like this. They went for Freddie Freeman last year. They offered either a 7-year deal or an 8-year deal. 7 years, 140, or 8 years, 150. So the fact that they went after someone like that, why? Because obviously he was going to make their team better, but they need guys like that. They need to start getting people in the seats in Tampa Bay. And obviously going to a new ballpark soon, these big time players, that's going to help. Jacob deGrom obviously had his issues last year with health. He had the scapula issue, but when this guy is healthy, he's the best pitcher in the entire freaking universe. And can you imagine, him with the Rays, the Rays obviously taking such an analytical approach? I mean, could they even get more out of Jacob deGrom? Is that even possible? I don't even know at this point. But the one thing with the Rays, they've actually been good, in the past at just managing innings. So I feel like that could actually be a pretty good fit. He's also from Florida. I've never been the one to, sure, I'll mention, if a guy, is from a certain state, like Nathan Eovaldi, could be cool for the Rangers or the Astros because he was from Texas, like Josh Bell as well. But that's never, I think, it's not a slam dunk reason for a guy to end up going to a certain team. Sure, Jacob deGrom, he went to Stetson University in DeLand, so sure, he's from Florida. Who knows if the Rays really even have a chance? He's going to end up getting a lot of money per year, most likely like a 3 or 4 year deal. It's going to be full of options. But I find it very interesting that the Rays are involved here. I would, as a Red Sox fan, I would hate it. But as a baseball fan, I would love it if the Rays were to get in on him and somehow land him. Like I said, this team was really good last year coming into the season. They just had a lot of injuries. Could you imagine? This team is completely healthy. The rotation is completely healthy. The bullpen, which actually did take a bit of a step back last year, imagine that gets back on track. This could be a team that could be a huge problem for a lot of teams in the American League. And if you add someone like Jacob deGrom, they would go from contenders to serious contenders. For our last story, the Blue Jays have hired Don Mattingly as their bench coach. So Don Mattingly and the Marlins decided to part ways after last season. The Marlins have now hired Skip Shoemaker as their manager. I think the Marlins, they were just looking to go in a different direction. They wanted a younger manager in there. And Don Mattingly, I think this is a great fit for the Blue Jays. They've had a bit of turmoil when it comes to the manager position, firing their manager last year, having to, replace him in season, and now they're bringing him back for another year. But with Don Mattingly, I think this is a great addition for the bench. The Blue Jays last year, they had a lot of expectations, and I feel like it kind of got to them as a team. I feel like someone like Don Mattingly is going to bring just a calming influence for that clubhouse. Obviously, this guy's been around the game for years. I love this move. I think this could end up being one of the more underrated moves this offseason. Now, last year, when the Padres brought in Bob Melvin, I was saying, hey, that is a great move because they needed someone in control of that team. They needed a more of a presence there at the manager's spot, and ended up working out for the Padres this year. Now, Don Mattingly is not going to be the manager by any means, but I think just someone like him, just that presence that he brings, such a great career that he had, but he's had success as a manager as well. I love this move for the Blue Jays, and I am expecting the Blue Jays to be a better team this coming season. So those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think down below of all the stories that I've discussed here, but that's all I have for right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.